and I believe we are live from Salina. Hello, I am James Lowe, a.k.a. Jiggy Jaguar, or as my good friend Frank Catolo used to call me, Jigman Freud. And we are live from Salina here at Access TV, and we've got a heck of a panel. And I want to talk about the people that aren't here first. We were supposed to have Dan Giroux from the 4th District congressional candidate for Kansas. But as we all know, money is rampant in politics, and he blew the show off tonight because he was going to a dinner with a rich donor. So he's going and getting a check. We're doing a show about politics. We also invited Dr. Roger Marshall to be here this evening. And Ross, you have a statement about Mr. Marshall.
Well, Mr. Marshall, hi, I'm Ross Long. I'm out here. I'm Skyping in from Colorado here. But yes, Mr. Marshall, you know, when you have an opportunity, a media opportunity, why don't you take it? You know, here we go, or you can get out your platform. I understand nothing's really been said by your you know, your candidacy so far, but maybe you all can correct me if I'm wrong. But this would be a great time to, you know, tell people what you're all about. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine.
Now, we're also broadcasting, we have a couple different stations. I don't have their names, but we have a couple different stations out in California that are going to be carrying this on delay, so I want to thank them for carrying the show as well. But in studio, we have Todd Pittenger from KSAL. Todd, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for asking me back. After the whole marijuana show, I'm a little surprised we were all invited back.
That's right. And sitting next to him is my good friend Alan LaPolice, and you're an independent Republican running here in the 1st District. Did I get everything right there?
Reformed Republic.
Reformed Republican.
Yeah. Independent is the key word here. Independent. It's something that people are for. I am. I'm desperate for somebody to break it and say, you know what, you've done your damage. Let's try something different.
Yes. And sitting next to him, Mr. Andy Hoosier from Steckline Communications down there in Wichita, Kansas. How are you?
Good evening, sir. I'm great, and I can't believe you had the marijuana show without me. I told him, man.
And sitting next to me, Mr. Israel, a.k.a. Sean Gates, Sunday radio show host. And it's kind of funny because we have Ross on Skype from Colorado who helped me kind of get the Sunday radio show going, and then Israel picked the ball up and ran with it. It's quite interesting.
The opportunity. Thank you for all the gentlemen here today. Hello, everybody. Yeah.
It's good to see my prodigy is working.
And we've got Ross Long from Colorado calling us on the old Skype-a-rooney. And Ross, thank you for your Roger Marshall take there. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
And we also have on Skype from, I believe, California, Mr. Eric Paul Loya. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me today.
And we are going to start there. And as we do on this show, it is always titillating topics. The marijuana stuff, we did gun control, we did Black Lives Matter.
All in one.
And now, all in one, the last episode. And tonight we're going to kick it off with a subject about the adult film industry, but it's not what you think. It's a privacy law called Prop 60. Explain to us just what the heck they're doing out there in California, Eric.
Well, to our all surprise, the adult film industry is what the most major political parties are uniting over this year. We're looking at a very contentious race on the national stage, but here in California, the Republicans, Libertarians, and Democrats all agree that Proposition 60 is a bad idea. Proposition 60 was created by a single man who has invested about $5 million to produce and put a law on the books that would allow him to file lawsuits directly against workers in the adult industry, obtain their home addresses and legal names, which would obviously open those workers and that very marginalized workforce up to a whole slew of harassment. So we are very vehemently fighting that proposition. And we have built a gigantic, quite honestly, a coalition against it. So we have over 100 political parties, political clubs, newspapers as well as advocacy organizations all throughout the state that are very actively taking a stance against Proposition 60. So it's looking like a very interesting election this year.
Now, with Proposition 60, if this passes, this opens up a whole megillah of nastiness for the adult film industry. But it also is going to cause the loss of jobs in California, because you're going to have many of the stars, the studios, the camera people, everybody leaving town essentially and taking their tax money with them. My question first to Andy is, when California doesn't have any money, why is this a good idea?
Well, you got me on that one. That's not a good idea, and I would have to support you guys with trying to fight this legislation. You're right. I mean, it would open it up to chaos and pandemonium, to register and harassment, and I don't even see the benefits of this bill. I don't even see why it would even come up and why someone would try and advocate for something like this.
Eric, how did this get started? What was the deal on this?
So the proponents of this measure try and talk about safer sex, which is obviously a topic that I think we're all, at least somewhat familiar with. I don't know about you, Jiggy. But obviously it's a strong concern for the adult industry itself. So in 2004, there were a couple of onset HIV transmissions, after which the industry said, hold on a minute, we need to revise what we're doing here. And we actually created testing protocols where our performers and workers get tested every 14 days for a whole slew of HIV, for a whole slew of STIs, including HIV. Since then, we've not had a single onset transmission, but the proponent of this measure is no other than Michael Weinstein, the CEO of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, who basically has $1.2 billion a year to play with. And he's found that attacking workers in an already marginalized workforce is a very good and lucrative topic for him and his PR. So what they did is they asked for regulation to be created for the industry, which the industry partook in for over the last 7 years, at which it came to a vote in February this year by the Cal OSHA Standards Board here in California, who did not adopt the regulation because they didn't feel that the true stakeholders and the workers were listened to and included in the creation of that regulation. So we've restarted that regulatory process. But Mr. Weinstein just can't keep his hands away from the adult industry. So he proposed a law and invested $5 million into it, collecting signatures and spreading half-truths and a lot of lies about the industry, which is obviously difficult to tackle when you're talking about something like the adult industry.
Now, Todd, from a news perspective, what do you make of the fact that this is basically just a giant smear campaign towards an industry? And granted, the adult film industry is, in Kansas, it's not a fun thing. People don't want to talk about it.
It's not existent.
It's not existent in Kansas. Thank you. But what do you make of the media campaign and all that from a news perspective?
It seems to me probably using the media, probably trying to come up with a solution for a problem that doesn't really exist. Yeah. I would guess probably for morality reasons he's doing it, but in the bigger picture, he's trying to come up with an answer for a problem that really doesn't exist. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's very fair. That's actually exactly what the 7 major news outlets in the state have said, is that he's created a solution in search for a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
I would just add to it, Eric, just hearing it on the surface that way, it just seems so anti-American, anti-constitutional. I mean, there's so many themes in the Constitution about privacy and so forth. And yes, I like your idea, Todd, about, there's really no harm being done. So what's this all about? So yeah, there's no need for it. It just seems so anti. I would definitely vote no on it.
Well, you mentioned bringing morality
Thank
to
you.
the porn
California,
industry.
get on the ballot.
Okay.
But
I'd have to
I'm
hurry.
pretty sure everybody likes their
Yes.
porn moral free. Yeah, last time I checked.
Sorry, what was that?
We were talking about how he wanted to bring morality to porn, but I'm pretty sure 11 out of 10 Americans prefer the porn moral free. It's not scientific or anything.
It's not scientific. It's not a scientific poll. It's not like a Drudge Report poll.
sorry. I think what we have to realize is that adult film is a form of entertainment. We're not providing sexual health education in these movies, and we're certainly not necessarily portraying the reality. I mean, there is some sort of an element of fantasy and freedom of expression certainly here, but regardless, we're certainly not in the business of putting our workers in danger for the benefit of freedom of speech. So the workers are the ones that created safety protocols, made sure that they are adhered to. They're the ones that are talking to the regulatory bodies to make sure that all industry businesses follow those regulations. And I, as the executive director of the trade association for the adult industry in general, all over the United States, can for one say that I don't think there is any other workforce that is more self-aware and in charge of workplace safety than ours.
I'm not touching that one.
Now, sitting back and listening to all this, Alan, what do you make of this whole thing?
I hadn't heard about this legislation, but I'm of the opinion that that government which governs best governs least. And this sounds like creating new legislation, creating new regulation that doesn't need to be there. So I'm the guy that's saying let's decrease the regulatory environment. Let's not put new laws on the books if they're unnecessary. And the second part, and again, I'm just learning about this tonight, but anyone that's going to use the media or use this kind of media sensationalism to push an agenda, I'm totally opposed to that. I think right now, looking at the presidential race, looking at the way that the media drives an agenda, just so that it can push its whatever that narrative might be for profit or for personal gain, I'm totally opposed to that. I think the media is supposed to either entertain or inform, but not to drive some kind of issue.
Ross, before we move on to our next topic, wrap it up for me on this, because I know that you, thank you, Israel, yes, I know, that's my Freudian slip, thank you. You and I have interviewed porn stars years on Skype, and all of them seem to be really nice people. What do you make of this law?
It's unfair in my estimation to do that. It's singling out a certain business portion of the country, and a sizable, $1 billion industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. But it's just unfair. It's just I just don't like it. I did like what Mr. LaPalisse said. Sir, you do have a refreshing amount of true conservatism within you. With the libertarian Ronald Reagan bend, which
I'll take that.
which I think need more of. Get out of the way. I mean, it's hard to say when you're in government. Government needs to get out of the way, but they do. They so need to, do that. And this would just, it's unnecessary regulation and bad.
Bad. It's just bad.
Bad. Bad.
I mean,
That's
I'm
right.
sure the guy didn't get the tweet or something, but he could just not go to porn sites if he wants to. That is an option.
Yes.
That's
Weinstein could just avoid the internet,
Yeah.
and then he wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. Now, I want to bring into our next conversation here.
We
I want
also
okay, go ahead.
all
Your Skype
all
delayed
different
on us.
California sites.
Go ahead, repeat that. Your Skype choked up on us for a second, so I missed that part of it. What were you saying?
Oh, I'm so sorry. As we talk about adult film performers, we don't want to choke up on that. We had, on Monday, we had...
The jokes write
Richard
themselves, I guess. Go ahead, Eric.
You do that so well. You do it so well. On Monday, just this past Monday, we had over 200 adult film performers that actually did march up to AIDS Healthcare Foundation's headquarters here in Los Angeles and protested and asked to speak to Michael Weinstein, who has continuously refused to actually speak to them. And on the very same day, the adult film sites all blocked access to any California IP trying to access content in protest of Proposition 60, because they will not stand for their workers being harassed by anybody that can see the content. And I think that's a very strong statement for an industry to make, to say we're willing to block out a 38 million people market. If you want to harass us, we're not going to let you. And, I think we really have to consider, is this where we want to spend our tax dollars, or do our tax dollars belong into infrastructure, education, healthcare, and topics that we really have to tackle, versus a worker population that is about 1,800 people with 0 HIV infections in 12 years. And we're just trying to push a moralistic media campaign really against the legal industry. So with that.
And I would add to that, I mean, not everybody likes porn, but not everybody likes marijuana or cannabis. But we have that out here in Colorado. And to be quite honest with you, when it's legal that way, it's safe. Because, you know, they can control it. They can control the amount of pesticides and, you know, the product itself. So in my, you know, and like I say, you have a stellar record that way with being non-HIV, you know, prolific that way.
Yeah.
So that's just, you know, another plus for your industry that way.
Well, well, Eric and Ross, I encourage you guys to hang out with us for the rest of the show here. I wanna go to our next topic, which is we were also supposed to have on tonight Kerry Burt, the Libertarian from the 1st District, but he has dropped out and thrown his support behind you.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your race and going up against Roger Marshall and the much like Eric's having to deal out there in California, a money machine.
I'm going up against the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I'm running against who's not an incumbent. This is an open seat now, but he's acting like an incumbent.
Yeah.
He's not debating unless necessary. He's spending the good amount of his time in D.C., and he's got the full backing of the United States Chamber of Commerce, which, by the way, is the single largest lobbying organization on the planet. I mean, they have billions at their disposal. And I'm going against that, and I'm going against a very, very broken two-party system. I'm going against, this is a district that is notoriously Republican safe. Now, like I said, I'm the reformed Republican. I'm the Republican that we haven't seen in politics for some 20, 30, sometimes 50 years.
Yeah.
I fully have faith in someone like Eisenhower. I fully have faith in someone like, you know, even Ronald Reagan, who couldn't get elected today, and Bob Dole, a favorite son of Kansas. Those guys wouldn't compare themselves to Roger Marshall.
Yeah.
Roger Marshall is the establishment, and I'm going up against that. Kerry Burt dropped out, which is fortunate because he's a very, very articulate, very intelligent young man.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, a lot of what we were saying was very similar.
Yeah.
And so he decided to throw his full support behind me. And we have an opportunity here to do something very unique. We can actually start to chip away at the edifice of this two-party duopoly, and we could possibly elect an independent to the U.S. House of Representatives from the Kansas 1st District.
Aren't you also fighting the stigma that an independent has no chance? Is that a fair statement?
That is a completely fair statement. From the moment that I declared myself independent, I started to be ostracized from the Kansas Republican Party. We were supposed to debate in Hutch. After the primary, the nominee of the Republican Party was supposed to go and then debate the other candidates at the state fair, something that's traditional. And
Tell this story, Eric. You talk about how there's money out there in California that's driving your issue, and me and Ross have been around all sorts of different things as far as money driving an issue. Explain this Kansas State Fair debacle. This is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
Up until the day of the debate, the website and all their flyers actually scheduled an ag debate to be held at the forum, at the state fair. It was one of the main venues. And they told me that they had canceled it, and what they were going to do is they were going to put the nominee, Dr. Marshall, on stage with the Kansas senior senator, Pat Roberts, who's also the Senate Ag Committee chairman. So they were going to put them up there as equals. And I said, but he hasn't been elected yet. What happened to the forum? And they said, well, you're not a viable candidate, Alan. To be a viable candidate, you need to be polling at above 5%. You need to have $50,000 in cash, an office that's not in your own house, and some other arbitrary thing.
I think you think for yourself too much. I don't know if they put that in there.
Yeah, and you're way too articulate.
Yeah.
So They said that I couldn't debate. And I said, well, I meet your requirements. Can I still debate? And they refused to debate. And then there was a letter writing campaign. And ultimately, they made the decision, rather than have a debate with me and Mr. Burt and the nominee, they chose to pull it and instead just do an ag forum. And they uninvited Dr. Marshall. So they made this decision that I was unviable.
Didn't one of his financial backers, weren't they involved somehow?
The Kansas Farm Bureau and the Kansas Livestock Association were organizing the forum. They were creating the questions. They were going to be co-sponsors of the event, and they were fully backing the nominee. They were fully backing Dr. Marshall.
Just amazing.
So they didn't want to place him on stage to debate with me, a former Republican who, by the way, 2 years ago got 45% of the primary vote.
Yep.
And I am a true Kansas farmer. I mean, I don't farm full time, but I am a hobby farmer. But I grew up farming. I grew up every day of my life farming. So I know ag a little bit better than the nominee.
Well, as a person who studied, politics, in particular Kansas politics, Kansas is always behind the eight ball. That's just what it is when it comes to adopting new ideals and thinking in new ways. We wait till we see everybody else do it, and then we try to do it. So it doesn't surprise me at all that when you coming in with new ideals, fresh ideals, try to do something different, then people wouldn't like that too much. At the end of the day, the two-party system, like I always tell people, is same pair of pants, different pockets. So if you're third party, that means you're not in those pair of pants. Those are $1 million pair of pants.
I'm not wearing those pants. I'll say this though.
Don't wear them.
I'll say
You
this.
know what'll happen to you if you wear them?
I-
It's not good.
It's not good.
I hate to
Prop
tell you that you're
60.
wrong because you're never wrong, but I got to say this: Kansas has a
never wrong, you're
history.
right.
Kansas has a history of extremely good politics, good politicians, and moderation. We were historically known as very stable politically. I mean, we used to have really stable governors, really stable legislatures. We used to send some of the best delegates to D.C. We were notorious for being really moderate and reasonable, and that has gone the wayside in the past decade. I mean, in the past 4 years, it's gone to hell, and I'll say that clearly.
I absolutely
Now,
agree with
Todd,
you.
I believe you've interviewed Dr. Marshall.
Yes.
What was from a news perspective, what was your feeling?
I was
What questions did you ask?
I was very involved in the primary with both sides, with Dr. Marshall and with the incumbent Tim Huell's camp.
Yeah.
I believe I was the only media here in town that covered every event that they held.
Yeah.
I was at that. I would say, like any politician, he says all of the right things. Congressman Huell's camp says all the right things. You say all of the right things, too. The question is, who do you believe?
Try to.
Well, Alan's actually right. That's the difference.
Thank you.
No, he was at our radio station. I
Yeah.
gave him a tour of the radio station. Very personable. With the amount of money that was spent, though, you wonder, why is so much money being spent in a district in the middle of Kansas, in flyover country, where I would guess that maybe the bulk of the money comes from people who've never even stepped foot in Kansas?
And see, this is the thing that this has been kind of the issue tonight, Andy, is the fact that, we talked about Dan Giroux wasn't here because he's going to go pick up a check. We've got out there in California, Weinstein spending, what was it, $5 million or something on that whole deal. Then you've got Marshall spending money.
$3.7 million was spent on his campaign alone, and then you've got Huell's camp. There was another 2 point some million. Over $5.7 million was dumped, and that's what we know. But that's not the dark money. That's what the FEC documented. $5.7 million, $55 for every single vote that was cast to nominate somebody in a district with. It's an agriculture flyover district, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to my district, but there's no real economic incentive for the U.S. Chamber to really
To spend that
get
kind of money.
to spend that kind of money unless they want the seat, unless they want to own the seat, and I'm not suggesting that, but maybe they're trying to buy themselves political influence in this district, from this district on Capitol Hill.
Now, Andy, you talk to people every day on the radio, and also have talked to I'm assuming you've talked to Roger Marshall at some point.
I have not talked to him
Oh,
yet, no.
okay.
He's coming on the show soon, hopefully.
Okay.
But I've not talked to him yet. Look, I agree with a lot of what you've mentioned with a lot of money. The reason that so much money was dumped into those campaigns is because Tim Huelskamp, who I'm a huge fan of, I loved Tim Huelskamp.
Yep.
I've loved what he's done. I think he's a solid conservative. The reason they dumped so much money into him is because, like you said, they wanted to buy off that seat. He thought for himself when he was in D.C. He was on the egg committees. He led the charge to get rid of John Boehner. He led the charge to try and fight Barack Obama. He did some amazing things, and they wanted him out of there, which is why they threw in the establishment candidate like Roger Marshall. I like what I hear from you. The problem that I have, and it's nothing against you because I love what I'm hearing with your politics, is I've always been the proponent of party over person in the general election. And the reason of that is because of the money and the special interest. Do we like it? No. It's a two-party system. Unfortunately, I don't agree with it, but that's the way it is. And the voice that we're going to have to bring conservatism and libertarianism back is to unite behind the Republican Party with the voice and with the money, and we throw out the establishment. And I think Trump's actually doing a good job of breaking up the establishment to where we can move in and have a voice in the party again. And I think instead of straying away from the party, we start uniting and coming back into the party. And I mean, that's always been my view of, unfortunately, a corrupt, broken two-party system.
So how do we move forward? I mean, if the two-party system is corrupt, it's cronyistic, it's broken, will they fix it? Will
They
the
will.
ours?
No, we will. And that's why I say breaking off into smaller sects with an independent, with a libertarian. Look, libertarians have 147 seats across the country, 45 of them being in actual partisan seats. Third parties have never worked on the national scale, even during the Republican Party. Abraham Lincoln started that, but it wasn't even a creation of a new party. It was the reinvention of the Whig Party.
Yep.
No third party has worked. We have to have the money. We have to have the unity, and we have to have the voice together.
The third party is not a two-party system. It's a multi-party system. It's a two-party bias.
Well, exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
the difference. And I disagree with you. It shouldn't be about the party because the party is not an entity. It's not a person who could think. That just means that a whole bunch of people will get together, and so that they don't stand out to the other person. They'll agree with each other, even if it means that it's some BS that they're talking about. They'll say, I'll support this if you support that. Even though I'm really not into this, I need you to support this. So I'll support you wholeheartedly. And that's the problem with the system right now, because we get ideals in our mind that are asinine 100%. And because the party says it's okay, well, yeah, let's just go along with it. The two-party system is broken. At the end of the day, we're talking about the election. You had Hillary talking, you had Trump talking. Trump's like, well, Hillary gives all these special breaks to all our friends, and yes, I benefit from it too. Well, we all know the people hang out with each other basically on the same economic level. So the same people that Trump is talking about that Hillary's with is the same people they're all hanging out with. He's hanging out with these George Soroses and all these guys who have hundreds of millions of dollars. He's not hanging out with us. So guess what? Their interest is the same. Their interest is to retain money for themselves and not to push forward. More so than any time in America, more so than any time in human history, we have the technology and the ability to solve almost any ill that comes to humankind. But we don't do that because of greed. We don't do that because of party lines. We don't do that because of BS. And until we get on that, we have to move on. ISIS is not our biggest threat. Immigrants aren't our biggest threat. Black Lives Matter isn't our biggest threat. America's biggest threat is America. We've done to ourselves what no one else can do until we get off of this and we start pushing the narrative that your party has nothing to do with your intelligence.
No,
I'm not
right.
for Democrats. I'm not for Republicans. I'm for intelligence. So if you're a purple party, but you're talking about some of the substance, you're going to get my vote.
True. The reason I say the party, though, is because I completely agree, but the only way we're going to fix that system is if we unite behind a party that has the voice and we have the money.
I disagree.
No,
That's how we push them out.
If the two-party system is broken, what broke it? It's the fact that they got bought. Who bought them? The
Sure.
same people. The same exact people bought the
Your
Democratic
Alex.
leadership. The same exact people bought the Republican leadership. So the establishment is not one party. The establishment is both parties, and both establishments have been bought by the exact same people. And who are they? Who's getting screwed in this?
No,
everybody else.
Exactly. But we have an opportunity right now to push out that establishment out of that party because of the special interests. Look,
They're so
for example,
deeply-
the NRA is one of the biggest special interests in the country. They support the Republican Party, which is why come the general election, it's party over the person because the NRA is going to put money into those campaigns for the Republicans. For us as conservatives and libertarians to have the voice that we need to stand on principle and actually fight for those principles and have those principles fought for on the grand scale, we have to be part of that system in order to push them out of their own system and take that system back for us.
It's never going to happen
You're
because
saying-
we're not a part of the system.
You're saying that the cancer is my friend, and I have to have the cancer in order to cure myself. But that is bizarre.
Temporarily. It's a long-term goal. And
No.
I understand the frustration because trust me, I was a Ted Cruz guy. I was this close to being the Never Trump guy because I cannot stand a lot of Donald Trump's policies and what he's done, being a Democrat for so long, raising taxes, talking about whatever he's done. I do not like Donald Trump. But we have to vote for Donald Trump in order to keep Hillary out, to keep a voice for Republicans, and
That's not a
and to
choice. That's
shake
not a
up
real
the
choice. We
establishment.
have to vote for this evil because that evil is more evil than this evil. That's bullshit. And until we can address that, until we can say, when you mentioned the Whig Party, but the Whig Party was dying. And so instead of reforming the Whig Party, they recreated a new party, the Republican banner, which was the most amazing force that this country has seen.
And that's
the
what we
force
have
for
to do
good.
again, but it has to be done from the inside of the party.
I
that's why
understand what
I'm
you're
running.
saying theoretically that you have to
Sorry for
change
profanity.
For,
No, that's fine.
In general-
we were talking about porn earlier. We might as well.
You always put me in these
Access
situations
TV.
that
We're
are
good to go here.
in theory, yes, you want to change something from the the inside out, but at some point in time, you got to ask yourself: is it the operator or the operation?
Let me
It
ask you
has to
this.
be one. One
Let
of
me
these
ask you
are
this.
flawed.
The Tea
It's
Party
either-
movement that started a few years ago, that wanted to get rid of the establishment, the conservatives that started up this Tea Party Freedom Caucus movement that went from inside of the party rejected it. The party tried to kick it out so much. The party kicked out Rand Paul. They're trying to kick out Ted Cruz. They're trying to kick out individuals like you. They're trying to kick out Tim Huelskamp because they're the ones that stood on the principle. But if we fight back within there, we can have the party, we can have the voice, we can have the money, and we can have the principle.
You're saying it. They kicked us out. They kicked those guys out because they didn't want them to be a part of it. That's the whole point. It's an illusion that you're a part of this, but you're not. It's them and it's us, and that's what people don't understand.
What happened to the Tea Party movement? Because it started out much like the Occupy movement. It started out as a cause, and it was a righteous cause. And they were rebelling against being taxed, and they were rebelling against the fact that they weren't represented, and it was righteous at the beginning, at the onset. What happened? You tell me what happened.
Well, there's no voice in it, and even
No.
even
There's a
an
very
individual like-
specific set of circumstances that happened to the Tea Party movement.
Well, many of them went back to the establishment side.
Money poured into it, and it was corrupted, and the message was changed, and the message became the vehicle for the money, and then that killed the Tea Party movement.
No, exactly. I agree. It went to the National Security, and it went, for example, Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan got elected under the ideas of the Tea Party movement. As soon as he got into the national scene, he became
the
establishment, and now
the
he's no
poster
better than
child.
John Boehner. Exactly. Which is why the movement of the libertarians and conservatives that do nothing but stand on principle, the Rand Paul and the Ted Cruz working together to unite under the Republican umbrella, kick out the establishment and expose them for doing the same things the Democrats have done.
What if it's too far gone? What if it's
Well,
too far gone?
if it's too far gone, two things are going to happen, and that's why I think that Donald Trump is going to do benefits to the Republican Party right now. If he gets into office, he's able to shake up the establishment, which gives the populists, which gives the libertarians, which gives the conservatives a voice back into the party, move back
That's
in.
considering the Democrats don't take the majority.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If Donald Trump loses, or if the Democrats take a majority, he breaks the party. It shatters, and then we have an opportunity to rebuild without the establishment. We have a benefit on both sides of this.
Is he a conservative?
No, absolutely not.
Then why do you want him to be your masthead?
Because we're in a long-term goal here. It's not a battle. It's the
you-
long-term war
What
that
is
we're
the
looking
goal?
in. And look, the enemy of our enemy is our ally temporarily. When we use that idea, we can use him for our advantage for now, and then we can look down the road to actually have a stable ground to fight on with a bigger
I don't
with
think
a
that
bigger
that's
force.
a good plan of action because there's always unintended consequences.
The only thing is
the
if
problem is that why is it if you're independent and you're a Democrat, Jiggy, you can be a Democrat today, and you're a Republican.
Okay.
And I'm the media, we're gonna be the media. If we're the media, and he
Oh
has
my
the
God,
best
we're all in trouble
ideals,
if you're the media.
you know what I mean?
Go ahead.
If he has the best ideals, why shouldn't he get equal time as you? If he had equal time as you, then other people would get to see these ideals and they would hear how asinine these other two are.
I agree.
But the problem is that it doesn't happen. And the farther
Why?
we
That's what we need to.
I'm about to
look,
make it happen
well,
because
no, and
because
good
I got
luck.
polling that shows that I will break this system in the next 3 weeks.
And if you do, that is fantastic. Look, the farther we break ourselves into smaller sects with an independent group, with a Constitution Party, with a Libertarian Party, we're never
There's
going
like
to have a
50
voice.
How about the
running
American
for
people?
president.
Exactly.
When did
because
the American people get represented? When did they get back the power that was given to them by the Constitution, by our founding fathers?
When we give them the
When we
voice
give
and
one
the power.
party, when we give one party that power back, when they get their power back, the American people get. It'll trickle down, right? No offense, I like you a lot, but like that's nonsense.
No,
because
it is.
trickle down doesn't work. It never trickles down until we take it back, until we get what's ours, until we have our own
Absolutely.
voice.
Absolutely.
Don't expect the party, which is so infused, so corrupted by the money and the need to hold on to power. Until that changes, nothing else changes.
What do you guys on Skype think about all this, sitting back and listening? Eric, you go first.
I appreciate
The
it.
Republican Party declared pornography a public health crisis. I don't know what you want me to say. I just sit there and I think, all right. I mean, I work for the trade association, so I can't really,
Yeah.
I think I'm a fiscal conservative.
We all are.
I think I'm a supporter of the LGBT community, as I am a gay man myself. So I would probably be the difficult one in this conversation, and I would say I support Hillary Clinton.
Ross, I know you don't.
As
So,
everybody super quiet.
Everybody's quiet for you, yeah. But my take on what you've been talking about with Republicans, especially, is here's my take on it. Republicans need to get off moral issues. You know, abortion has been there for like 40 years, over 40 years. Get off it. It's law. Gay marriage is here and it's here to stay. Get off of that. You may not like it, but get off it, okay? Do, more Ronald Reagan sort of fiscally conservative things. That will save the party.
Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater is the father of conservatism, and when he was asked about gays in the military, he said, "Why in the hell would he care? As long as you can shoot straight."
You're absolutely right. It's about, yeah.
I got to chime in here for a second though too, because I disagree in the sense that they need to get off of the moral issues. We need to address them because that's the reason that Republicans and conservatives have such a bad image with moral issues and with these social issues. As for Roe v. Wade with abortion, we have to go back and just fall back on what the Constitution says. Does the Constitution give the Supreme Court or the legislature a right to vote on this? No, it gets defaulted back to the states. That's the way it should be. They shouldn't be judging on social issues. For the LGBT community, is it it's a right to be judging one way or the other? No, the Supreme Court should not be judging at all. It should be going back to the states. It should be going back to the communities that to decide how these things should be made. It should not be up to the federal government, period.
So that's been my platform. I'm a very 10th Amendment conservative, limited government. The government has its purview. It has the things that it can do best, and then it has everything else that it doesn't do at all.
Exactly. And with conservatives, for example, like the LGBT, it's not that Republicans are against the LGBT community. We don't care. We want to live our life. We want you to live your life. You do your thing. I do my thing. Don't force it and oppose your will on me. I won't force and oppose my will on you. And that's the way it should be. That's not.
But that's not the way it is.
But as soon as the federal government starts to judge on these things, then you're saying, okay, well, LGBT community, you can't live the way you need to live because we're telling you you can't. Or Christians or religious people or whoever, you must accept something that you religiously don't agree with, so we must impose our will on you, and it's not good either way.
But I would say that at the federal level, there should be eyes on this notion that there should be equality under law. There should be equality under the law.
Here's the thing, though. It already is. There already is equality, but people don't interpret it that way, so then we have to create special laws to protect special groups.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but if it's a moral issue, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't speak for everybody. Normally I do, but not tonight. I understand what people are saying. If someone's homosexual and you don't agree with it, fine. You got to decide in your mind whether God's law or man's law is more important. After you make that decision, it's gone from there. Whatever someone chooses to do with their life is their business. If it's a legal issue, give people what they deserve. If me and Jiggy, fell in love and went and bought a house as friends, If I died and he's on the deed, he's going to get the house. That's all it should be, all to it. You know, give people what they deserve. And as far as morality, no one has the right to point their finger at anybody else, because you may not do what I do, but I'm sure you do something that I don't. And that's the whole point. That's what's wrong with politics. That's what's wrong with Donald Trump. That's what's wrong with Hillary. Neither of you are moral people. You know what I mean? I don't know them personally, but you're no more moral than anybody else. So that in itself is a bunch of hogwash, just like most of politics is. My name is Sean Gates and I stand for, no you don't. You don't stand for that. This is a commercial. You want to move to California and watch porn, you want to move to Colorado and smoke reefer. That's what you want to do, but you don't say it. We got to get to the heart of issues. There's people hurting out here. We got military vets and families that are struggling. We got so much other stuff that we should be talking about instead of trying to police the world and everybody else in it. The two-party system is broken. That's all it is to it. As long as you only have two people, you don't have any opposing views. Because if me and Jiggy think alike, we're never going to think outside the box until this third person comes in. If we all decide we want to go to eat and it's an even number, we all know what's going to happen. You need a tiebreaker. You need the same thing in politics. You need a tiebreaker. You need someone to come in and say, hey, here's something new. Here's an alternative. But, you know, we want to hash the past and we want to be, you know, Ronald Reagan conservatives and all this. And it really doesn't mean anything. Ronald Reagan's dead. He's not coming back. His ideals live on, fine and dandy. But what are we going to do new? Where are we going to be in 50 years from now? Because it's going to come here. What kind of world are we going to leave for our children? Are we still going to be bickering back and forth about the same thing? Because that's what we've been doing. Every president, I'm going to say this and I'm going to end my rant. Every president from Barack Obama on back has promised the world that they're going to come in, they're going to make sweeping changes, and they're going to be the savior. Every president after that says, I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean up this guy's mess. It's not true. We have to have more transparency. We have to be more real about the problems that we're having in our country, and that's how we're going to move forward, not still towing this party line that doesn't make sense just because, you know, hey, my father was a Democrat. I don't care if my father was in the Purple Party. I might just start the Purple Party.
You might just start the
I
Purple
don't care.
Party.
It's not about that. You know what I mean? And until we're progressive, man, we're gonna continue to decline. Now, the morality issue, that's a thing of a personal, you know, that's something you have to deal with on a personal level, and there's no legislation that can legislate that. You can make all the rules that you want to forever. We've had the 10 Commandments long as we could think of, and people still murder, even though it clearly says that. Is that something you should have to tell someone? Don't murder. It's not cool to murder. No, but it happens. So we got to start being for real and start really talking about issues, especially on a local level, you know what I mean? And you got these big wigs in DC who make choices for people back here, and they don't know. It's like you said, most of these people is bringing money in their community. They never step foot here. They have no idea about the people. They know nothing about what our common interests are, how we feel, how we live our lives. And as long as we're leaving that to other people, we're always going to be lost. Ross, I think you shook your head. You might agree. I think I got to agree.
I think Ross agrees with Israel. Holy smokes.
Right.
Now, sitting back and listening to all this, what do you think?
Somewhere along the way, we lost the ability to be civil. The two parties did. They can't even shake hands before or after a debate. It seems more important to put cute little memes and make fun and come up with cute little nicknames for
And they're
everyone.
funny, though.
Somewhere, some of them are funny, I'll give you that. But somewhere along the way, we lost our civility, and we can't even have a civil debate. And people really can't sit down and have a civil conversation. Mm-hmm. What I don't like about the systems, the leader, both sides, the nominee, however, the latest bad, horrible thing that comes out about them, those that support them, doesn't turn them off, it makes them support them even more vehemently. And I just don't understand. The more negativity, the more bad things that come out, it just empowers those that support them and makes them support them even more, which leaves those of us that fall somewhere in between nowhere to go.
I want to add to that, because this is what I believe. We have an environment today, a political system today, and this was Bob Dole himself told me this. Bob Dole, who was a pretty conservative fella, you know, he was the right-hand man of Ronald Reagan. He told me that he could not possibly get elected today. It would never happen. A, he couldn't win a primary, and B, he wouldn't even choose to run because it's so toxic, and that's what he said. He said, my friend Ronald Reagan couldn't win today. So the father of, you know, the Republican Party, the patriarch, the grand saint, Ronald Reagan, wouldn't win. Your man, Ted Cruz, didn't win. he couldn't win in this environment, in this toxic environment. Now you've got to address that. You can't have a James Madison. You can't have a JFK. You can't have an Abraham Lincoln. You can't have anything when those people aren't given access unless either they sell out or they become the extremist that we don't need. So how do you fix that?
We pursue on. Look, Ted Cruz lost because he could have won very easily, and I predicted that he would have until Donald Trump was able to establish himself as the true outsider when I believed that Ted Cruz was the real outsider. He fought Mitch McConnell. He was able to do the things he would do and stood on principle while in a federally elected position. And I think he's still one of the biggest fighters of the conservative movement today. He has another opportunity. We can come back and we can pursue on. We can get, which is why I think he did brilliant during the caucuses or during the convention, when he did not publicly endorse Donald Trump, other than the personal issues, but saying that, look, I have the goal. I do not agree with a lot of the policies that he has. We need to keep Hillary out so we don't lose that completely. Because look, if we lose this election and Hillary gets in there, it doesn't matter whether we start third parties or whether what we do. It's gone. It's done. It's over. She's bringing in over 1 million more Syrian refugees. She's given amnesty to 10 million plus immigrants, 11 to 30, whatever's in here. She wants to import another 10 million. Every election that we've had since Ronald Reagan has been decided within a 5 to 10 million vote range here. If she brings all these people in and disperses them among the different districts of what she wants to do, conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, no one will have a voice again because the elites will have truly taken over. This is collateral damage. Donald Trump's election and the Republican Party is collateral damage to keep her out.
I got to back up 2 seconds here. I got to back up and say, you said he could have won, he should have won, all these things, and he might win, but he didn't.
Look,
the system didn't let him. And the same on the Democratic side, because I'm not going to pitch Bernie Sanders, but why not? I will. He was an outsider, and he was willing to say the hell with the money, and he inspired a whole new generation. And you may not like Bernie Sanders, but I bet a lot of people right now wish he was the nominee and not Hillary Clinton.
Well,
the fact is, the system choked out this guy that was a breath of fresh air, even though he was an old crusty Vermont Jewish fella. He was a breath of fresh air because he said no to the money, and he said, let's start a revolution, let's do something new. And they killed it. And all those inspired the millions of people, the Bernie boys and the people that were inspired by this Our Revolution thing, they got thrown aside. And do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing? The people that loved Ted Cruz, do you think that they felt good about watching him lose the election to someone that wasn't nearly as qualified as he was? Do you think that was inspiring?
And then having to do the, have you seen the video of him doing the phone polls where he's sitting there going...
Look, it energizes us to fight even harder. We have a fight. We can continue to keep moving on. The game is not over. And the farther we break ourselves into smaller sects, the less and smaller voices we're going to have if we're able to continue to fight within the party.
12 people changed the world.
Well,
13
I
if
understand.
you include Jesus.
But look,
that was a small sect.
How do we become
They had
activists?
new ideals.
But you're still seeing it as a binary, the Republicans versus the Democrats. Why don't you take the
Unfortunately,
leadership
that's
from
the
the
way it
Democrats
is.
and toss them out because they don't represent their people? They don't. Otherwise, Bernie would have won. And take out the leadership of the Republican Party and throw them out because they don't represent their people.
We can
Or
do
Ted
that.
Cruz would.
We can do that.
Why?
have
When
the opportunity.
when they have the power, when they control who gets the nomination.
They do
What
right
hap-
now.
Go,
What
Ross.
have Republicans or Democrats done for people that makes them really want to be, voted in again? You can say that for both parties. What have Republicans done in the last 8 years, for the people?
It's
for their constituents.
It's like church. You go, you hear a good message, you feel good, you leave, and you do your immoral thing. That's our American
sadly
right,
lacking.
Ross.
I mean, they're falling off the line. But with Republicans, what have they done? I mean, it's a hard question they're going to need to have to answer.
Well,
Now, Eric, you mentioned you were a Hillary supporter. What did you make of Andy's comments about Hillary there?
Oh, there are so many different comments. I mean,
Where do you start, right?
I think in this election, what I have to look towards is a presidential candidate that has policy experience and somebody who has a loud mouth. And I do not believe in the temperament. I do not believe in I do not believe in Donald Trump's sexist remarks. I do not believe that that's the image that the United States needs to give off. So if we were talking strictly in a lesser evil sense, then I strongly believe that that would be Hillary Clinton. For the simple fact that I don't feel like she's going to make the country implode within the next 4 years. Do I find it unfortunate that the United States relies on a two-party system? I fully do. I believe that the country should have more than two functional parties. I believe that coalitions should be in place in order to form governments in some places, in order to really bring in the diversity of voices that are out there. I have a strong problem with seeing a man that is highly unstable on a stage, on a national platform, and also seeing it internationally. I look at the other countries that are looking at the United States and at the presidential election and are laughing their heads out why this man that did the Celebrity Apprentice has the right to stand on that stage. There is far more qualified candidates also within the Republican Party, but I believe what that actually points out is that the parties have lost touch with the voters in many various ways. And I think that that is exactly what we need to tackle, because politics have turned into this game of whoever has the most money gets into office. And I mean, Donald Trump is, after how many bankruptcies? I don't know if he's still eligible, but I just don't see, I do not want to build a wall. I do not believe that refugees are necessarily a bad thing, considering the screening processes that they go through. I believe that as a rich Western country, we should be able to shine a light on what it means to be a democracy and what can be achieved as a democracy. There's various other ways of how we can look at things, but I certainly do not believe that Donald Trump will be in any way, shape, or form representing the United States that I believe in, that I love.
You just gave the exact reason why I went independent, why I took the hard road, because it is hard. Without party backing, without financial support, without all the infrastructure that I need, I chose the hard way because I realized that neither party, at the leadership level, neither party was in touch with the voters. They had given up. They didn't care. The RNC suspended some of the caucuses and the primaries in certain states, and they just didn't do it. And they just said, we're not going to give that vote away.
Yep.
And the DNC, you saw from the email scandal that they were, from the very beginning, the superdelegates and the machinery was never going to let Bernie have it. And here's what I'm going to do if I can win this. I want to make it very clear that I'm still conservative in a way that the traditional, Barry Goldwater was conservative, Dwight Eisenhower was conservative, but I'm going to go there as this American, I'm a combat veteran, I'm a patriot, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to build a coalition. The only way that we're going to bring this country back together is to bring in the Republican statesmen and the Democratic statesmen and bring them together. I'm going to build a coalition, much like the House Freedom Caucus, but it's going to be bipartisan. And then with that voting block of 50, 60 people, we will stop terrible legislation and we can advance good legislation for the people. And until the people get that power back, I got to say, the Republican leadership, they're not going to give it up. You don't let go of power, especially absolute power, on your own. It must be taken from you.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Go ahead, and then we'll wrap up here.
Yeah, I mentioned in our last episode that particularly being a black man, I feel the same way, that neither party has done anything of substance to bring about change in our community. Donald Trump last night, he said that he'd do more for black people than Hillary could do in 3 lifetimes. And my reply to that was, you're rich, you're influential, you can do that without being president if that's what you really wanted to do. But, now you want to do it because it's hopefully it'll get you elected. It won't. But that, in essence, that's the microcosm of the bigger issue, is that we only tackle issues when it benefits us. I want people to see that Democrats, Republicans, they are the elite. And they think, how do I retain power for me and my friends? And they are all friends. That's why they go from party to party all the time, and not for the average everyday person. I seen this article of this guy said he made $10 an hour in the 80s. Ground beef was $2, milk was $1. Now everything has tripled. That's the central issue that we need to be talking about, is how do we get more money and how do we provide food on our tables at night? Not this grandiose ideal that I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to change the world, because you're not going to. Or the 40 other presidents before that would have done those. Some of those guys were charismatic guys who could get things done on both sides of the aisle, and it didn't happen. The reason why it didn't happen is because those ideas that they were trying to tap into only benefited a small portion of people. So until we get candidates in who do think on a higher level, who think what's best for the overall pace, we're in a dangerous place in our country. I don't know if people understand really the hinge point that our country is on right now. Whether we're going to really reach that greatness that Donald Trump talks about, or whether we're going to falter. When you study history, countries go through that. They have these points in time where they have to decide what they're going to do and what they're going to be about. And one of the great ways to tell what the country does is how do they treat their women and infants, and how do they treat the incarcerated, and how you treat your elderly. And we're failing more miserably in all of those. So until we tackle those issues,
Politicians see only the next election. Statesmen see the next generation. And I
Absolutely.
don't want to ever be a politician. I think about my children and everything that I do. I think about their children. And unless we can start thinking about the next generation and what we're going to leave, it's going to be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, I
As
can't be bought, but I can be rented.
As we wrap up here, I want to go around and have everybody do their plugs and where people can get in touch with them. We'll start with Todd.
KSAL.com, 11:50 a.m. on your AM dial, KSAL Radio. I would say, I'll quote my good friend Rich Alexander, who does the morning show, vote early, vote often.
As long as you're voting for me.
With my apologies to Andy, I would say don't vote for a party. I don't vote for a person just because what party they're from. Vote for the person who you think would be best for the job. Vote for the person who you think best represents your own personal values.
Alan?
I want to say that part of my slogan is that I'll put the people ahead of the party. No offense, but again, I'm this traditional Republican that doesn't exist anymore. People above party and responsibility above the money, and I'm clearly doing that right now because I haven't taken any of the money. I haven't taken any of the big money. I'm a fraction of what Marshall's got. My name is Alan LaPolice. You can check me out on the website alanlapolice.com or true-conservative.com. That's mine too, because I believe that I am the conservative that died sometime in the 80s. I'm on the ballot. I'm the independent, and if you want to change what works in Washington, change who you send, and I represent that change. So give me a shot.
Andy?
Hey, well, I love the discussion, and you know what? These are the discussions that advance the movement, that advance the ideas and advance how we have a voice again and how we get farther. And good luck to you. Good luck with your campaign. Good luck with what you're doing, because, I mean, I agree with your politics, and I agree with a lot with what you're doing. And I think together with you going the alternative route and with us trying to rebuild from it, we'll meet in the middle. We'll meet in the middle
I'll
here,
be there.
and we can.
I will be there for you.
We have the great ideas, all of us, to be able to actually change and have a voice again. And we'll be able to advance conservatism or whatever we believe, but we can have the voice of the people again. I hate using the general term of we the people because we are so marginalized and we the people no longer exist in that sense, but we can have a voice as an individual again, not as a collective. And that's what I want. I'm Andy Hoosier, KQM Radio. I do the midday show, noon to 2, the voice of reason, and you can find me from noon to 2 there on Facebook at Mid America Reason.
Israel?
Israel, got a new album coming out. You know what I mean? I always do political music, so this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can find me at IZ, that's Isaac Zebra 316.com. Check me out. I'll have some podcasts up and different things. And I just say, we've come to a point in America where you don't have to think for yourself. The government does it for you. So your mind is freed up to do all the things you want to do, like play video games or watch reality TV. You can do that, but life goes on while you do that. And if we don't learn from our past, we're bound to repeat our own mistakes. You know what I mean? And as a black man, regardless to what we're going through in this country, regardless to the history that we've had in this country, I'm proud of where I'm from. I don't know any other country, and Black America wants to be a part of that fabric. We want to be part of the progression that needs to happen in general. So my message to everybody is think for yourself. Take some time and really, if it doesn't make sense, it's because it doesn't make sense.
Ross? Wrap it up here and,
Well,
and
I would
tell
just
us where we
agree
can
with
find
Todd.
you. Go ahead.
Yes, if you can hear me there, I'll agree with Todd there. For one thing that we can agree on, always vote the best man for the job.
Or woman.
Okay, no, but always vote the person for the job. Yes, of course. But no, there are 9 states that are entertaining the idea of legal cannabis. It is coming to a state near you. The latest polling says 60% of people want it. It's great for your economy. We've gone here in Pueblo, Colorado, from a 15% unemployment rate down to about a 7% unemployment rate. It is burning our lagging economy like nothing else.
No puns intended.
That's
yes,
right.
don't
Puns
be
all around
pro-business
this
with
evening.
Democrat, Republican. Do the right thing. Be more libertarian minded in my estimation. Not the current libertarian that's running now. He's an idiot. But that's another story.
And rosslong.info, correct?
Yes, rosslong.info. All my videos are there, so that's where you find them.
And Eric, go ahead and I hate to say this because I'm going to do another pun, but wrap us up. my friend here.
I'll get it.
Free choice,
Yeah.
whether you wrap it up or not. So don't give me the microphone if I can't use it. I think in many ways the 2016 election will say a lot about who we are as a nation and who we are as a country and where we want to see us going. So in that spirit, I'll just stick to my guns, which is no on Proposition 60 in California. Thank you for all people that are looking at the stations that are syndicating the program. Please educate yourself. Go on www.stop60.com. Follow the hashtag NoProp60 and listen to the workers. Listen to the only thing that the three major parties can unite over, which is no on Prop 60. Thank you.
So we listen to them while they're working, or no?
Well, that wraps it up. I thank our Skypers. I thank our in-studio people, and I thank you for watching. And next month, when we are live from Salina, we will do a wrap-up of the elections, and we'll have some special guests. And thanks for joining us. And check out salinatv.org.